Writer friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kimberly, writer and teacher. Today we're going to talk about the rules of writing. Yes, there are rules for writing. Why are they in place? Well, we're going to get right into that. Before we get started, smash that like, and if this is your first time here, please subscribe and ring that bell. I post new videos on Wednesday. So let's get into it. So first question is, why do these rules exist? Because you'll hear someone say, there's no rules to writing. You just write whatever you want. And then you'll hear another person say, you need to cut back on this in your writing because of this reason. The rules of writing come into play when it helps to make something more interesting to read. So one of the things to cut from your writing is definitely going to be adverb. There are certain genres that adverbs matter and you should use them. But typically you should avoid using adverbs and instead replace them with stronger, more specific verbs and nouns. This does help to avoid being telly. One of the things that comes across as all telling is adverbs because they are a weak way of writing. There is almost always a better way to convey something than using a weak adverb. This is why I said more specific verbs and nouns are showing rather than telling. Now, another one is going to be up and down. You typically don't need up and down because it's automatically implied. She sat down could just be she sat, or she sat up. Now, sat up is a little bit different. If you're laying down and your character is sitting up, they're about to sit up. She sat is not a complete sentence. She sat up from a laying position is different than she sat down. So understanding where to add up and down. I took the elevator. Well, where did you take the elevator? Up or down? See, it will matter in certain contexts as to whether or not up and down matter, but typically up or down is usually implied and therefore unneeded. Filler words, that and just. These two are filler and almost always the sentence reads just fine without it. Now, I know that I use some of these words while speaking because speaking is different than reading. When we speak in a different manner than we read. It's not the same, and you shouldn't use filler words that you use in everyday life in your writing as well. Now, when it comes to filler words, though, there are certain situations where filler words are necessary according to voice. Something that makes a little bit of authenticity in some writing is a younger voice will typically use these all the time. So if you have like a YA book and your character is a younger type of character, they're going to use these types of words a lot more often. And so in dialogue and some narration, it will come across natural and it is okay. But you should err on the side of caution that and just makes something wordy when it could be concise and clear. So consider that when you're editing, that and just is just something that doesn't necessarily need to be added into writing. Speaking, again, is definitely going to be different. So you'll find the line between the two. Really and very. Now these two in particular make your writing look weak, and there's almost always something better to use than very. Very is probably one of the worst adjectives that I can think of because I absolutely hate very. There's almost always another word you can use other than very to convey some kind of intensity. Now, of course, these words and some of these things come when you're editing. You shouldn't be worrying so much about this stuff in the very first draft. The first draft is just to tell your story. The second draft is to clean it up and make it look more appealing and something more desirable to read. Start and begin. Start and begin, I don't even understand why it's a thing to use that. She started doing something, or he started doing something instead of they just did it. Or they began to blah, 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 blah. I can't tell you how many things I read where I see that a lot. And it could just be they did this instead of they started doing something. Some of this stuff matters as far as tense wise. So I could see sometimes why someone might use these to convey that they're in a different type of tense. A lot of this is done for present tense writing. In most situations, you can always get rid of that and still actually read the sentence properly. Next, the word then. I can't even understand why it's a thing to use then to convey a order of whatever your character is doing. They did this, and then they did this, and then they did this, and then they did this. You don't need then. The reader is already with you. They already know what's happening. And when you put then, it just bogs down the sentence. Sarah was in the kitchen, then she washed her hands, and then she went outside, and then da-da-da-da-da-da. So then is unnecessary, so cut that from your writing because it's going to be one of the first things I see. Filter words. Filter words are words that describe something and filter the book through somebody else's eyes. So it reminds you that you're reading. Now, I know that sounds odd to state because obviously you're reading. But when you're reading, you are trying to get into the shoes of the main character. When you see something that the main character decided to do this, it takes you out of the story and filters it through that person rather than seeing it directly through their eyes. So Sarah decided she was going to get up and go to the store, rather than Sarah got up and went to the store. You don't need decided. Decided is unnecessary and therefore could be cut. This comes a lot into third person writing, which is a lot of why a third person feels a lot like telling when I'm reading it, because it comes off like that. But there are ways to do third person writing where it's still showing, not telling, and you can avoid using all of these different filter words. And they're like decided, thought, see, hear, feel, realized. These are some of just the most common ones that I see. Again, filter words are something you don't need, so cut them. Get them out of there. Another thing to cut from your writing is repetition. Repetition is something that is so boring to read. You don't even believe me when I say that, because it is so boring. I can't even begin to explain to you why it's so boring, because it's just daunting to continue reading. He did this, he did this, he did this. It's just an order of just telling, oh, so-and-so went and did this, so-and-so went and did this, da-da-da. And it's just, you can do better than that by varying your sentences and your sentence structure to come across more authentic and more professional when you're writing. Of course, these things come in the second draft, so watch for this stuff when you're editing. And you know what? That's all I have for you right now. Thank you so much for watching. If any of this was helpful, please subscribe, smash that like, and drop a comment below. It'll help the YouTube algorithm suggest this video to other writers like yourself. Follow me on social media. My links will be down below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.